How are you getting on, folks? Obviously, it just goes without saying that I took a few days of a break, um, just simply because the form that I was in was completely woeful, and there wasn't really any point in me going on trying to pick winners when it was just not going my way, basically. But we've recharged the batteries. We're back in action, and Cork tomorrow. Cork has been very, very good to me over the past couple of months. Obviously, the one day that we recorded 5 winners in a second, from 7 races, like that was definitely the best day I've had in as a tipster, basically. So I'm going to get back in the saddle anyway, as they say, and get back to tipping horses. Looking through the card, there's some very nice prices here. I don't actually know. There's no odds on horses here now tomorrow, so or at least none odds on horses that I've picked anyway, off the top of my head. But there are some great value races there. We would be looking for a few winners, definitely, and there's some nice prices in here: 5 to 1, 11 to 1, 4 to 1, 5 to 2, different things like that. Like, so, look at if we can get 2 or 3 winners anyway, just to kickstart the new year and get things back on track. I certainly think that we should be well able to put in a fairly decent out performance. First race off though, the 12:30. I'm going to go with the Kennedy brothers combination here now, with Michael and Jack Kennedy teaming up. Majestic Maid coming in here at 5 to 1 certainly looks to be the one to be on. Look at Sean Flanagan and Noel Meade. Obviously, the two of them go together like peaches and cream. But I don't know. He's a hardy bloke. He's just a little bit short for my liking. Look at, obviously he is the horse to beat and he is the one to be on. But I don't know. He just, for me, the form just isn't adding up, and it just doesn't really mix too well in together. Majestic Maid is coming down from listed company into maiden hurdle company now again. So the quality of the field is, well, what I'd say is significantly lower. I just don't really think this he's a hardy bloke for Noel Meade is going to make it into listed company. Look at, he's a hard enough sort to get your head around, and he's a hard enough sort of a horse to really predict how good he's going to be. But Majestic Maid, like I said, coming down from listed company, obviously was behind Sky Ace in Punchestown last time out. Sky Ace is definitely one of my main fancies for the Mayor's Novices Hurdle this year. But other than that, it just looks interesting. The fact that, I suppose, look at, obviously Michael is certainly thinking that this Majestic Maid is going to do the business anyway. Otherwise, he'd probably throw a claimer up on board, or he'd probably just throw an average enough Joe Soap, with all due respect, up on board instead of his own brother, basically. Like, I'm trying to think whether it's Paddy or Jack. I'm nearly sure it's actually Jack now, come to think of it. But 5 to 1 looks to be the best price for, I suppose, a listed hurdler going back down into maiden company now again. It should be able to put experience into good use, and I think it's definitely one to be on at 5 to 1 for an each way perspective anyway. Moving on then to the 103. I personally like Mouse Morris's horse here now for Rob Core. Gentleman's Game at 2 to 1 is definitely a very interesting sort. Rachel Blackmore takes the ride. Look at it was a winner last time out in the Pint to Pint. It's hard to really know what to really make of it. The third horse finished a very gallant fourth in Punchestown last time out, so the form is generally fairly strong. I wouldn't necessarily look too much into it, considering the second was well, the second hasn't run yet, so we are yet to see actually how good this horse is. But the fact that Rob Core have snatched this horse up, obviously, look at Mouse Morris landed a fairly nice gamble with oh, it's another Rob Core horse. I can't think of the name. He flopped out in Naas last time out. Indiana Jones is the name of the horse, but he landed a fairly nice gamble in Cork when he won last time out. He was 16 to 1 at at the very opening price, but he quickly went down into, I think it was 3-1 or 2-1, whatever price he was. But look, I was lucky enough to get the 16-1. I thought he was interesting, and it's a similar enough profile, this gentleman's game. I think he should be well capable of going about his business here and being able to beat Gajumi or Jumi, whatever way you want to pronounce it, for Willie Mullins. I just don't know. I think he's a little bit frustrating, this Jumi. Look at, he was well beaten last time out when he fell. I just don't think he's worthy of. I think the price tag is in around 4 to 5. So look, I'd be avoiding him, and I'd be going with Gentleman's Game here at 2-1. Next one now of the day, the 138. I'm going to put this as my free nap of the day. Velvet Elvis for Thomas Gibney and Darragh O'Keefe coming in here at around 13 to 8. It's interesting. Look at, when you put it all into perspective, he's miles clear on ratings. I think he's something like 12 or 15 pounds clear on ratings. So if you're looking at it that way, he's got plenty in hand, and he has got bundles of ability. Now, he was second last time out. I think that form is filled up fairly nicely. I think overall, look at it, it's certainly an interesting looking race, and it looks like it's going to be a fairly nice sort for the future. And I personally think 13 to 8 is better value than the short price favourite here. 2-13 then. We're going to go with a little each way perspective here now, with Madison to Monroe currently priced around 11-1 for Jessica Harrington and Paddy Kennedy. This one here, look at it, it's interesting. It was 4th out of 5 runners last time out, but I think it was coming off of a 738-day layoff. So look at, you can forgive him for that run. I wouldn't look too much into it. Look at, he completed a race, and he did his business, and he I suppose he did what it said in the tin, basically. But I think, look at, when you put it all into perspective, Madison to Monroe, it's a fairly sloppy old field. I don't really know what to make of it. Like, there's not really too much in here that has plenty in hand, or there's nothing in here really jumping off the page. But when you look into Madison to Monroe's form, it's beaten the likes of Ben Rubin in Tipperary, which has since gone on to do bigger and better things with Henry de Bromhead. It won its point-to-point debut, beating the big dog, who's since gone on to be a fairly decent sort for Fahies. So look at, I certainly think if this Madison to Monroe can I suppose move on for the experience run over, I suppose, after a 2-year layoff, and when all things considered, it's probably back to full fitness again. I think 11-1 is big value, and I certainly think it's well worth considering for an each way perspective. 248 then, that's my patron pick of the day, so I won't be sharing it with G, unfortunately. 323 then, I'm going to go with the next best of the day for the free tips. Grand partner here for Tom Mullins and Jack Foley. Certainly looks to be a great I suppose perspective here, in or around 4-1. It was a very good second in his favourite track in Leopardstown last time out. I think, look at, overall, he is clear as day that he will appreciate the softening ground, and he will appreciate the run in Leopardstown. So look at, all things considered, he's a consistent sort, and he runs very much to form 99% of the time. I think he has a great chance at 4-1. I think Jack Foley is a great man to be partnering him up in the saddle. Overall, look at, when you think about everything into perspective, Grand Partner is certainly one to be seriously considering tomorrow, especially if the ground holds up and it turns out to be a complete bog now tomorrow. And finally then, 355 then, we're going to go with Feddens here at 5-2. Simply because it absolutely blew me out of the water anyway, the way it ran in Naas last time out. Like I said, the Naas run, it was 66-1 and it finished second. It was just the only horse ahead of it was Take T for Willie Mullins and Patrick Mullins, who, look at it certainly looks like that particular bumper horse is going to be a fairly decent sort, and I certainly think, given, I suppose, the benefit of a run and everything else like that, is going to turn out to be a very special horse. But this Feddens isn't a million miles behind it, really. When you think about the way he stayed on to finish very strongly last time out, Cork will appreciate that sort of it's that sort of a racetrack. Like, you wouldn't you wouldn't necessarily be going hammer and tongs from the front and getting home fine and dandy, but I certainly think it's definitely well worth considering at 5-2. The fact that it ran up to perspective there at 66-1 last time out. God knows what it's going to do now for the fitness run. It should come on for experience, maturity, overall just quality basically. And I certainly think Feddens is definitely one to be looking into, taking into the, I suppose the the start of this year anyway, going on for bigger and better things. But look, I'm going to leave it there. That's all I'm really going to cover for tomorrow. Like I said, if you want to find out what the patron tip is, I leave a link in the description below. So far so good anyway for this month. Between the three of us, we've I did the calculations there. We're 36.78 pints in profit. So look at when you think about it that way, for like a 1 pint level steak, if your 1 pints are €10 steaks per bet, basically you're up €378 or 378 euro, I think, altogether. So look at when you put it into perspective like that, that's certainly well worth considering. And look at, hopefully more people will, I suppose, jump on the bandwagon and jump on Patreon as well. For my Patreon tip, I've put in some serious studying into it. It's at a nice price. If it wins, it'll certainly pay for the bad run of form that I've gone on anyway. But I certainly think it looks like a sure thing. Like I said, I'll leave a link in the description below. Thanks again for the followers so far. The last video, I think it reached 1622 watch minutes. So when you put it all into perspective, like, that's serious going for, especially the horse racing scene that doesn't necessarily do as well on YouTube as the likes of music or, different hullabaloo things like that. So I am greatly appreciative. Hopefully you had a great Christmas, and hopefully we'll be able to kickstart the new year on the back of plenty of winners. Thanks again for the support. If you're having a bet, the very best of luck. And please make sure, if you haven't already done so, to keep liking, sharing and subscribing. Thanks very much.